They can hear Mike.
Yes, we can. You're damn right you can. Hey, folks, overlay's fucked. I'll get to it in a second. Welcome to stream. We're late, and that's okay. All right. Oh, good evening, and welcome to Seize the Game, or as I like to say, Seize the Obs. I am your host, Michael Diamond. I am the storyteller, keeper, handler, etc. Du jour of the old ways. I have some amazing people with me. We will get to introductions in just a second. I will adjust these windows in just a second because the OCD part of my brain is screaming at me. But first, thank you for staying through this long and somewhat jazzy intro, which is new. The overlay is new, and we're here for you. We're here to entertain you, and hopefully have a laugh or two along the way. So I have done my introductions, and so I'll just go to, we didn't really even talk pre-stream about introduction order, so have at it while I mess with this overlay.
Heck yeah. I'm going to go for it, y'all. All right. Hello. I am Pesto Mystic. You can see me randomly on this channel and randomly on my own channel, but mainly here at Old Ways Twitch. So by all means, please, hit that follow button and all that good stuff, because there's a lot of really cool content here. You know what? I'm going to throw the ball over to Morgan.
I didn't know we were ball passing. Good evening. This is Morgan, and I am playing any fucking character tonight you want me to, because I don't have an introduction. And here I am. Bless you all.
I love that.
Oh, and I'm an Old Ways member, podcast member, and I do all sorts of other stuff, and yeah. I'm on here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. All right, and I'm throwing it over to Fairy Ashes / Bunny. Hugs.
Hi. I guess I have the talking stick now. Cool. So, hi everybody. I'm Fire Ashes. I always joke with my community that I'm your favorite cryptid's favorite cryptid. I'm a full-time variety streamer, sometimes charity streamer. I'm a cast member of the Old Ways. And I do a little bit of all sorts of stuff. I do first runs, speed runs, cooking, crafting, art, IRL content from conventions, TTRPG stuff, obviously, even when I'm not doing stuff with the Old Ways or with Miskatonic Playhouse, which I had the honor of playing with earlier this summer, or anybody else. But don't worry, Mike and Mav are always my favorite. The M storytellers are the besties. But yeah, you can see me here. I'm one of the moderators with Morgan in the Old Ways Discord, so I've probably been around your feeds. And I stream 4 to 5 days a week on my own channel if you ever want to hang out with me there. Also, to everybody who came over at that raid and hung out for the panel to start, thank you for hanging out with me all day.
Awesome. So thanks, everybody, for showing up and hanging out. This is Seize the Game. So for those of you who did not join us for our, we'll just say, inaugural episode last month, it is at this point a monthly thing that we're trying to do here on the channel, which is to sort of talk very loosely about games in general, and that games is sort of a broad topic. It could be a lot of things. It is probably 90 to 95% tabletop games, although we do have guests perhaps coming in the future that might be talking about like console games, or maybe we might even get in tonight to talk about with our guest, with Bunny, about we might talk some speed runs and stuff, because it is something that she does quite well. And we're going to cover a lot of different topics tonight. But part of the stuff that we're going to cover is sort of some news-based items, because I think it's fun to talk about and chop up what's new. We've had some people contact us and talked about what we're doing, and then I had some interesting feedback from some of our listeners already who are like, hey, we'd like to see you talk about this. So the first thing I want to mention at the top of the show is perhaps a bit self-aggrandizing, but it is what we are doing. So in October, we will be live from GameholeCon, where we'll be debuting a new setting for a new fantasy setting that we have been writing. Myself and some of the members of the Old Ways are sort of compiling a different and new fantasy setting for us to run. We'll be playing a game of it there with some cast members. And if you are in the Madison, Wisconsin area and you are planning on going to GameholeCon, we would really appreciate if you would stop by. And so there's a link now in chat, which we could potentially, pin for a little while. But the cool part about it is threefold. We're going to be live, so there'll be a ton of live cast members live for you there. We'll be playing something that is not necessarily your standard D&D fare, because as many of you know faithfully, we don't really play D&D on the channel. That's not our vibe, because there's a lot of other channels that do that. We did play last year for the 50th of D&D. We played it at GameholeCon. That was fun. It was run by Value Heather. We had a ton of fun in that sort of wacky game that we got to play in. But it's going to be utilizing Monty Cook Games' Cypher system. So we use the Cypher system for a bunch of stuff on the show. So those of you who probably know some of us from our Old Gods of Appalachia series that we've gotten a chance to play a little bit, we use the Cypher system for that. Obviously, Children of the Periphery, one of our longer-standing long-term shows, uses it now, uses it in Season 2. We'll continue to use it in Season 3, and there's going to be a really fun announcement coming about Season 3 of Children of the Periphery really soon. I'm super excited about the show and how it's going to sort of develop and change over the next season. And then we played other Cypher games on the show too, when we were playing Mystery Fleshpit National Park here on stream. That used the Cypher system, made by that whole thing put together by Gonzo Gaming, friend of the show. Great piece that they put together, and we had a ton of fun with it. Super supportive of them, and in general, we really like Monty Cook Games in general, and so they're super supportive of our show, and they're good people in the industry. And when we get that sort of concoction of those things together, we want to make sure that those publishers are supported. So if you're a publisher and you are listening to this, I doubt you will be, but if you are, my suggestion to you is find people who like and support your games, and maybe support them, because they're a tool of your marketing department that you could just tap into and utilize. But enough on my soapbox. I know that Morgan will be at GameholeCon with me. Morgan will be in that game that we play. And so Morgan's played some Cypher Fantasy. Yeah. What do you dig about Cypher Fantasy?
What do I dig about?
Yeah.
Actually, I think I've do we consider Children of the Periphery fantasy, or is it? That's a sci-fi.
That's a sci-fi. That's a sci-fi, sure.
Although some people think Star Wars is fantasy.
Technically,
it's a sci-fi fantasy.
Technically, Star Wars is a spaghetti western with lasers.
Right. It's a space opera, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. But all of the themes, the underlying themes of Star Wars, are essentially a western.
Mm-hmm.
The entire thing, and Lucas copped that, but that's neither here nor there.
Now that I've got you way off the topic,
it's okay.
So the thing I like about Cypher Fantasy is that it has its own set of creatures that you can utilize from, especially in Cypher's Godforsaken. I'm watching chat too. Wait, I gotta.
Don't get mesmerized by chat.
But it has their own creatures. One of my favorite things to do in Cypher is play all their little Cypher shorts, where because that kind of gives you a little bit of a flavor, or a taste or whatever of the system and the genre that you're playing and everything like that. So there'll be, with fantasy, you can have your own foci, your own descriptors. They have some special abilities that you can utilize out of that book, out of the Godforsaken book specifically. So I mean, fantasy, a lot of the genres in Cypher system have their own different special abilities that you can utilize and stuff. Except one, with the Fire Under the Stars or whatever, Into the Fire.
Were you talking about the sci-fi book?
Yeah.
You mean the Stars Are Fire?
Yeah, there is no special abilities in there.
No, but the cool part about Cypher is that because it's a system, you'd have the ability to sort of mix and match depending upon what you wanted to do with it. I think the cool part about the event that we'll have at GameholeCon is that
I'm supposed to talk about that?
It's okay.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. I'm here. That's my role, is to sort of bring you back from the wilderness.
I was gonna start talking about the new Western that they have.
So we're gonna do.
I was just gonna go out.
No, we're not going to talk about
Go
Gunslinger
ahead.
Nights, not yet. So, because I know that everything with you leads eventually to horse
And
riding,
High Noon at Midnight.
right? Yeah, well, of course.
You can ride scorpions in that game.
Right.
So cool. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's
And
okay.
back to Game Hole
That's
Con.
amazing.
It is.
So with Game Hole Con, we're going to be doing some really special giveaways. We have new stickers coming in. We're going to give away some Old Ways merch at the show. So if you were there, you could totally get potentially a signed poster from who's ever there. We're going to also likely give away a couple of custom Old Ways D20s. And so these are D20s that have been created with our logo on them. And so if you're in audience, you might win one. And so that would be a fun little extra. So if you are going and you have had a chance to wish list us for the events page that's coming up. So events go live at GameholeCon on the 30th. And so you'd be able to pop over there and then wish list us so that way you can get a ticket and then, see us do it live. So I don't have, to answer Pasto's chat question, I don't have a dice yet. I don't have them physically in hand. I should have them physically here next week, and I'll put up on social media and shout all about it because I'm super excited. I loved our old logo. I love the crest logo. It is beautiful. James made an amazing logo. It is one of my favorite all-time logos. But I wanted to do sort of a refresh thing because we're not just a podcast, right? We stream, we do live events, and so the sort of positioning of the show as a podcast, it's more than that. We do more than that. And so it's important to be able to show that off. So,
Is there a special symbol on like if you roll a 1 on that dice? Or is it just like a special symbol for the 20?
it's just a special symbol for the 20.
Okay.
Although I know the dice maker who is making it, and I'm certain that I could get them to make a symbol on the 1 if I really wanted to. It just would cost more money.
Yeah.
And that's, and what's money? So, okay. So that's a first sort of news item is a little self-aggrandizing, a little self-promotion is, hey, we're going to be at this cool show. We hope you can check us out. The ideal way that you would be able to consume that without being there will be live on Twitch. So the tentative plan, will be for us to stream that live event on Twitch like we did last year. So that way, those of you who miraculously are not in the middle of the state of Wisconsin in October can enjoy the event too. And so, yeah, look forward to that.
I am so excited because that weekend I can watch you from maybe my wedding anniversary plans. I can just like pretend to be at con in the middle of that weekend.
I have a lot of really fun things I want to do. I'm thinking about sort of walking around, like live streaming from the phone or from one of my cameras or something like that, just from the con on other days that we're there, because I think it would be fun to sort of just show people what goes on and at the convention. Gamehole Con is a much smaller con than a lot of other conventions that are out there, so it's not anywhere near as big as Gen Con or PAX or Dragon Con or anything like that. The people that put that sort of, the people that put Gamehole Con on, Alex Kammer and the staff there, they want the con to sort of stay smaller because it's not about making money for them, it's about having fun. And I think that the core message of Gamehole Con has always been about sit down and play games. And I love that. And the behind the scenes stuff that happened last year where, they were having some, and we talked about it on stream with Alex Kammer, the guy that heads up Gamehole Con. They were getting pinched by the Alliant Energy Center for more money. The Alliant Energy Center saw all the money that was coming into Gamehole Con. They were like, hey, we want to raise your price on this, and hey, we want to raise your price on this. And he was like, no, I don't want people to have to pay to park. I want people to be able to just park and come to the con. Why do we have to make this about more money? And when, reportedly when the Alliant Energy Center really started to press them, they realized that Alex and his friends are in their 9-to-5 jobs are a bunch of lawyers. And they're really not people that you want to get into legal arguments with because they're really good at it. And they had to give some concessions. And the nice part about it is that most of the pricing has stayed relatively the same. There are now more hotel options nearby, which is great because people want to come to the convention. People want to enjoy it. It's going to be an amazing experience. I'm looking forward to, as Commodore Skip mentions in chat, I'm absolutely looking forward to Skip, because I think that the old school vibe there, some might say the grognard part of gaming, it's very heavy there. The presence is very heavy. And I'll also debut the new probably my new Old Ways vest that I'm making. I have a new leather vest that I'm making. It's going to be snazzy, and it'll be first shown there. Okay.
Are you gonna wear anything under that vest, or are you gonna like?
No.
I think
That's illegal.
That's
You can't wear anything underneath.
I think Wisconsin state law requires me to wear something underneath of it. So, you know.
That's been flipped recently. I'm sorry.
We drank enough up here. You could probably.
Yeah, let's. Yeah.
Don't test that theory, though.
Probably.
I'm not bailing you out.
No. I mean, I could probably bail me out, but I don't want to do that.
No.
So the second news item I have is the stuff that we talked about a little bit before, just sort of around the edge when it came to Cypher is that there's an evolved edition coming for the Cypher system. And so the Cypher system has been around for, I want to say, 12 years, maybe just about 12 years. And it's been a great bedrock for them to sort of do a ton of different things, to explore a ton of different things. And I wanted to highlight it because I think what they're doing to it is important. So how many people here in chat, of course, but also the rest of you, have seen where a game company announces a new edition, and I won't name companies, they announce a new edition, and then when that edition comes out, it becomes really, really clear that what this was a money grab, because they need to produce more books so that way they can get you to replace all the books you have with new books. Anybody had that happen?
What? No, that's not annoyingly common in that industry. Never.
No, never. Not once. So the thing that I dig about what they're doing is they're saying, hey, listen, 90% of our setting stuff is going to be perfectly transitionable. You don't have to get rid of anything. There are going to be some specific imprints that have specific systems, like, say, Magnus Archives, which is a fantastic game, or stuff like Old Gods are going to sort of stay the same. They're not going to transition those products. They have a list, of course. But one of the first things they did when they talked about the Evolved Edition was they wanted to reassure fans of Cypher games that we're not, these all your books are going to be fine. And that was my big question. Like, when they approached me about it and I heard about it, I was like, hey, I need you a little self-assurance here, like that we're going to be okay, because I have hundreds of dollars in their books and I didn't want to think, oh, okay, I got to replace all these, because that has happened before. And then you have the edition wars that happen very commonly in D&D. And I did not want that. And then same stuff happened between when Onyx Path transitioned and then Paradox took over, where you had, a White Wolf product that went through a bunch of different editions, first, second, revised, etc., and then eventually 20th. And then Paradox gets a hold of it and they reboot everything. And there's a big rift in the community about which version people play, because they want to play the version that they're most comfortable with. And, it's not like books have gotten any cheaper. And I don't, let me just say lastly before I can shut up and let y'all talk. I don't begrudge the gaming community publishers, especially people who work hard on books, to be paid what those books are worth. Like, I have seen the cost of PDFs go up from $5 to $10 to $15 to $20. And I know people that grouse about, why do I have to pay $25 for a PDF? Well, because cost of living has gone up, and like, artists need to eat. And if you want books, you have to be able to pay for them, right? So like, I don't begrudge any of that, but I think that Monaco Games is doing the right thing when it comes to how they need to deploy a new edition. And it's going to give us, I think, better options and better clarity when it comes to how to make characters and how to set things up for success at the table. thoughts?
Are you done?
I am done, yes. I love you too, Morgan.
Hey. Listen here, you little shit. So what I
Little.
really like, wow, okay, you're bigger than me.
Yeah, short king Michael.
Right. Yeah.
So what I really like about the new edition for Cypher is that you're actually gonna have hit points now instead of taking it all out of your pools,
Yep.
which is fine and dandy, and that's great. And basically, you were like immortal. It's really hard to kill you in Cypher. It's not bad, but it's still really. But anyways, I really like that they're hopefully gives you more opportunity to use your pools with more tasks and trying to bring down that level of difficulty and everything. So, and the thing I also like is that they're keeping that 1 to 10 difficulty range, which is really nice when you want to cross, keep crossing like editions or books and stuff like that. So, because then it gives it that, the same ability, it's been, the sameness.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
So maybe you touched on this just like ever so slightly, but out of all the people that we're listening to here, I am very much a rookie at this. I have not played a whole lot of different games, a whole lot of different systems.
Love it.
So, what makes the Cypher system so different than, let's say, something like Kids on Brooms or even D&D or Pathfinder? Like, what distinguishes this from the other tabletop games, or even to somebody that's not that familiar with tabletop games?
So not to step on Michael's toes or anything, but I think that a lot of people describe how crunchy or like rules heavy a system is a lot of the time. And you have really, really rules intensive systems, like some editions of D&D especially have a lot of crunch in there. Shadowrun notoriously is for people who like some crunch to their games. Whereas you then have way more rules light narrative driven tabletop role playing games. You have your heckin' good doggos. I would honestly put White Wolf products mostly in that that encampment is leaning towards the narrative and less towards the intensive rules, with some of the flexibility that certain World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness systems allow you, but it's still, I would say it's kind of medium crunch. Whereas I think Cypher also falls into the medium crunch range. I think it's not as intensive as a lot of the more rules focused and less narrative driven games that are out there. Not to even put less narrative driven as like a derogatory thing towards a role playing game. Just like certain people go into it for certain. Everybody goes into a role playing game for different reasons.
Ooh, that's a topic right there.
But I think with the Cypher system, it uses a small specific subset of dice. The rules are easier for newer players to get into than a lot of other systems. And I like that it's very genre agnostic, I think is how I'd put it, because there's just so many ways to play the Cypher system.
Mm-hmm.
You could do everything from like superheroes to horror, post-apocalyptic, fantasy, modern, super medieval. You can do all super far future. You can do so many things with the Cypher system. They've really just sort of said everything's on the table, make what you want out of it. That it doesn't put you in the same box that a lot of tabletop role-playing games do. So if you learn the Cypher system, in my opinion, whether you have friends who are really into superheroes or you have friends who are really into horror like me or whatever, you can likely make a table come together if you all know the Cypher system much easier than everyone having to learn new systems every single time.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. I think the focus of what they're trying to do is if there is one, I don't say complaint, but if I had a criticism about Cypher, it would be that the buffet of options that it offers can be sort of something you swim in as a new player. I think that would be something, Pesto, that like if I had to look for something that said, hey, what's the issue here? Like the issue would be, Oh, wow. Okay, so there's like a million and one options, and that can be dizzying. And so, what they're doing with the Evolved Edition is they're saying, what we're going to do is give you genre specific, sort of like channels to move down. So, if you're playing X number of if you're playing this type of genre, here are your like character formats, or here's some ideas for how your abilities can develop on the character, or rather than just saying that, the buffet table is open, pick whatever option you want, which some people absolutely love, but some people feel like, hey, this is too much, right? Not everybody wants to drink from the fire hose at the beginning, right? I just, let me get up to the table and sample a drink here and there. I don't need to be, doused. So I think that is an important improvement that they're doing. As Morgan mentioned earlier, they're going to actually have character damage now. So that is going to feel a little bit more like, I think it's going to feel a little bit more like the way Blade's characters take damage. So Blades in the Dark, where there's going to be like certain levels of damage that you take. And then character armor and actually making defensive actions interesting. And I think that is a challenge, right? So like even in Shadowrun, or even in storyteller based games like for World of Darkness, they have maneuvers, they have things you can do to make combat more interesting, because there are a subset of people that do like to make combat interesting. Like they sit down for the crunch and that's what they want. And so it's important to see that, MCG Monaco Games is seeing that and saying, oh, well, we could offer a little bit more rigidity or a little bit more in the way of options, and then possibly get some of that audience. I don't think that it's any surprise from them that an Evolved Edition is coming out. And I say that because the one thing I have seen this company do for the past 12 years is iterate, is figure out how to continue to move forward. They're not interested in serving you the same meal for the rest of your life. There are publishers who are happy to do that. They want to explore and do different things, and I think that is a strength, right? So super happy for that. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes or so before our first break, but I don't want to pinch our friends at Onyx Path, because we're going to talk about what they're doing next. So yeah, I'll just continue on this for a little bit, and then we'll go to break. The stuff that's not changing is also important about Cypher. So like Morgan mentioned, the task resolution from 1 to 10 isn't changing. So the great part about playing in a Cypher game is that we can have a really simple conversation. I bet I can explain the entire system to Pesto here before break. That's the challenge. So let's say, for instance, you have a character, and the character has to get up a rocky hill, and it is not something that is just a gimme. You have to do it. And so in Cypher, I would set, as the game master, I would set a difficulty from 1 to 10. So tell me how hard this is from 1 to 10. And I might say, okay, Pesto, the difficulty to get up this hill is a 4. So on a 1 to 10, you have a difficulty 4 challenge. So on a D20, we multiply that number by 3, and it becomes a 12. So you need to roll 12 or better on a D20. But it isn't just a flat difficulty in Cypher, meaning you get to have narrative say and control about how difficult that challenge is. And so you could say, well, I have climbing gear. And so I have like specific equipment. So you have an asset that would help you do that.
Batman grappling hook.
You bet. So you have a Batman grappling hook, and I say, okay, so you're going to use your grappling hook to help you get up. And it's going to help you sustain some of that weight and help pull you up. Let's lower the difficulty number by 1. So your 4 becomes a 3. And then you can continue as a player to say, well, I can also do this. So maybe what I don't know, or I don't know that you have decided to do, is you decide to say, well, I'm trained in climbing. So my character, who doesn't necessarily have a ton of skills like you would think in a normal character sheet, they have climbing, or something that gives them an ability to show that they're trained in climbing. So that trained in climbing brings that 3 to a 2. And so now it's a 6 or better on the D20.
Okay.
And the difficulties, these challenge resolutions, that's how they go in Cypher. They're conversations back and forth.
Oh.
And then the player rolls. One of the hardest parts for me with Cypher, as absolute dyed-in-the-wool dice goblin is that as game master, I don't roll any dice.
Oh,
I don't roll
no.
a single die because difficulties based on whether they're a challenge or whether they're an enemy, they're all based on a tier rating of, from 1 to 10, a tier rating of the challenge. And so when you are getting attacked by a creature in Cypher, you're making a defensive roll based on how challenging they are as a target.
So it's like it's a lot of like bargaining with the storyteller in
Sure,
a way.
in a
Like,
way.
oh hey, can it also be really windy this day? And that
Oh, yeah.
upcurrent,
Well,
that
right.
updraft
Or
helps me out.
you might have a character next to you like Morgan her character has an ability that she just gets better when she helps people.
She has mountain climbing horses.
Well, maybe. Yes, maybe mountain climbing horses. But maybe she's a helper. Like that's one of her abilities is when she needs to help somebody else with a challenge, she can lower your difficulty. We had a character in season 2, Cordelia, who had that ability to not only help other people but also take damage for other people.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's the basis of Cypher system is that. And it took me less than 3 minutes to explain that to you.
I think it took me less than 3 minutes to understand it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So like they even have
I
cards.
rolled a nat 20 on that.
Congratulations. They have cards
Ooh.
that they've developed, right?
Yeah, you get the minor effects and the
Yep.
major effects.
Yep.
Love those.
You betcha.
I
Okay.
added those. They give you those as default now, like suggestion. I'm
Oh.
sorry. Are we going to commercial?
We're about
now?
to. We're about to go to break.
Okay, I'm done talking.
You're fine. So we're going to go to break. We'll be away for just a few minutes. We will appease the ad gods here. For those of you who are subscribed, enjoy the carousel as it spins. And then we'll be back to talk about Onyx Path Publishing's new offering, which is coming up, which you can get a hold of, which is Monster Kingdoms. So thanks for being here on The Old Ways and watching Seize the Game. We'll see you shortly. So thanks everybody for sticking with us through the break. We had a rousing conversation of, we'll just say childhood memories. I think that's the best way to put it. Childhood memories. Yeah, I mean, everybody's childhood was different, and I'm sure that everybody had different things that they like to play with. That notwithstanding, we're back to Seize the Game with our special guest, Bunny, also known as Fiery Ashes, someone that we deeply love and admire. And I'm going to sneak her a specific question very, very, very shortly. I see your message in chat, Fiery, and I'm going to just say that it's my channel and I can say it like that if I want to. So I will just say that our friends, Onyx Path, very recently announced a new game, Monster Kingdoms, which we'll get to in a second. But I need to ask you about a game which is near and dear to your heart that they have had their hands in before. And it is a game, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's a game I have never played, and that's the game Exalted.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
What would you like to ask about when it comes to Exalted?
So, like, I have had the benefit of your explanation of sort of the premise of the game. And from what I understand, just seeing the Kickstarter numbers or crowdfunding when they do new books for Exalted, there is a fan base around Exalted that is, I think rabid is the best word for it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a good word for it. Yeah.
They are rabid. And I've asked, folks at Onyx Path, like, hey, I've never really, I've heard of Exalted. I heard about it way back when. I knew that it was like sort of different and it was not anything like I'd ever played. And people explained like the edges, these sort of the broad brushstroke idea of the game. What I didn't know is that there were like thousands of people out there who are probably right now in their homes, like desperately waiting for the next Exalted Kickstarter for them to back.
Frothing at the mouth. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So if you would give us and our audience your specific perspective on Exalted.
Oh, sure. So Exalted is so interesting because it's this mixture of mythology, and before you ask, oh, which mythology? The answer is just yes. But it's this mixture of mythology and Asian pop culture and high fantasy and pulp fiction all sort of smashed together in this time where, like, you're in this forgotten mythical age and spirits are walking openly amongst men and the world is flat and atop of a sea full of chaos and gods are real and everyone knows it. And you are, I mean, not to be that person, but so it's called Exalted, which by definition is, you know, somebody who's elevated in power or character, right? It's a and you basically, it's almost like starting at the power level of a level 20 D&D character. You start as practically a minor deity no matter which route you go. But the two main things I would say, the two main types of characters you can play, I think are the most interesting. So you have Solar and Lunar Exalted, and Solars are really good at like one thing. I'm going to use a friend's character as an example from a past game. A wonderful friend of mine was in a game where he was the captain of a ship, and he was an archer. That was the thing he was good at, like supernaturally minor deity levels good at. And there was a ship that may have been after someone on his crew as a bounty, and he picked off this person at the helm of that ship from like 8 clicks away.
Jeez.
But that's what he's good at. He is supernally good at long distance archery. So there was this magic bullet basically that left his bow and just flew across the ocean to the horizon and headshotted this dude, and he didn't even roll that good. Whereas Lunars are very good at many things, but not like supernaturally good at anything.
Okay.
They're not as good at stuff as Solars are, but they're good at many things. But the main thing with them is that they're shape-shifting people.
Oh.
The goddess of the moon has blessed them with the ability to shapeshift, and they have phases like the moon itself does. So there's all this wonderful, glorious goodness with your a little more subtle, but jack of all trades shapeshifters, which are the Lunars. There are champions as well. These are not the only things you can play, but it gives like a really good sort of opposing set of paths that you can do. There's like the most difference, I think, between those two. But that's sort of the energy that you bring, right? And you have basically witch hunters, for lack of a better term. You have people sent by the overall government of this world whose main job in life is to murder all the Exalted. And there have been huge hunts to kill the Exalted for generations. And it's this really, again, it's this great mixture of mythology and pulp fantasy, and especially a lot of Asian pop culture, as you're in this world with like wild hunts, but you're the wild thing being hunted and communing directly with gods and exploring what it means to be powerful, but also have to restrain yourself so that you can stay around long enough to be more powerful than the things that would try to eliminate you from this world. And yeah, it's a really powerful setting to get to play in, both literally and I think if it's ran right, emotionally and mentally. So I'm not surprised that everybody and their weird cousins are like, please give us more. I beg you, give us more.
Right.
Did you
I don't know if I answered your question. I can talk about this game forever.
Yes.
It's curious if like you walked away, you just talked about like it's this struggle with like that power and restraint. Like, did you walk away with any lessons that you took for yourself? Like, was there something that you found out about yourself or about like how you walk in your own life, like from playing this?
Oh, I will say, just answering Morgan's question really quick, but that's so good. They're not quite paladins. There are very powerful warriors from the Chaos Wastes, but that's like a whole separate can of worms to open. But they live to fight and hate the Empire, which we love to see. And they are maybe pawns of the dark gods of this world, so they're a little more anti-paladin. But you kind of hit the nail. You hit a different nail in the same project there, right? Like they're anti-paladins of this world is the best way to put it. They have very little will of their own, super corrupt, but hate the Empire, which we love. Little weirdos. For things that I probably would have taken away from this is, so when you're in Exalted and you're using your powers, if you use too much all at once, you have these motes of power that you can activate when you're doing things. And the more you have used recently without letting that sort of recharge and settle again, the more you kind of glow, and then very literally glow. And then if you use too many of them, you shoot like this beacon into the sky of light, as like light shoots down even through buildings or the ground to get to you from the heavens themselves, because you are like a literal font of power for a moment there. So restraint is really important in this game. Like, able to be seen for miles in every direction, beacon of light into the sky. Yes, exactly. And so if you and your friends aren't careful and somebody got really passionate about something and did not show any restraint, and then there's this giant silver beam of light, like the moon is a spotlight on you personally, even if you're in the basement of a building and it's shining down through the whole city to the building you're in the basement of, and then through that building's layers all the way down to you, it's really hard to avoid getting hunted at that point.
You're a bright shining star.
It's very rough to be sneaky or diplomatic when you might be getting chased out of town by Inquisitors soon. But I think, to me, there are, not to toot my own horn, it actually took me a long time to get to a place where I could say this without cracking up afterwards on the internet. But I would like to say that I have many skill sets, and I'd like to say that I have found myself in a lot of situations where I might have been one of the more expert people in the room on different topics that were relevant. But I think that this game has always kind of reminded me how sometimes the most important thing isn't being the best at something or just handling the situation, but being the person who knows how to show restraint. Being the person who knows how to bide their time and how to navigate when it's the most appropriate to chime in. Those types of things are really key in that game, and I think that those are things that it always reminds me of. Like, sometimes you want to just be like, oh my god, just let me handle it, and you've got to step back sometimes and just let people do what they need to do. You can offer politely, gently, discreetly, maybe even, but sometimes it's just best to show restraint and not put the spotlight on you. And
I'm laughing because of the pre-stream conversation and stuff.
Yeah.
But it also sort of reminds me of the same, like in Mage the Ascension, there are certain traditions that have access to dough.
Yes.
And the line from what you just said as far as Exalted reminds me of Doe 5, which is, the limit is not what can I do, the limit is what should I do. And
yeah,
puts you, I think I can see that mindset being very prevalent in Exalted. Like, yes, I could display all this power here, but should I?
But should I? Yeah. There's a lot of I can, but should I in Exalted.
That's fun. So I appreciate that. Any questions for our guest about Exalted? We know that she could go on for hours. So
highly recommend checking it out. And I guess the last thing I would say is that if you were to read any content for Exalted to sort of get a taste for it, especially if you are interested in the shapeshiftery side of things. The lunar books specifically are really great reading also, in addition to being fun, like setting material. So I would start there maybe.
So the same company, Onyx Path Publishing, that does Exalted, is got a new crowdfunder that we were going to talk about tonight, and that is Monster Kingdoms. And so I will put their backer kit link here in chat, just so if people want to check it out, they can. And I will sort of give those of you who are remote or maybe can't hit the website a little bit of the, we'll just say the lead in, right? So in Monster Kingdoms, you play a creature of darkness. Ooh, fancy. You play a creature of darkness. You may be a vampire magus or a Feyborn harlequin. You may be a warrior gauntlet, an orc cultist, a druidic elf, or a flame-spitting dragonkin. You can play a wildly creative goblinoid, a chaotic dwarf, a fierce ice elementor, or a shame-filled fiend. Your characters can be anything from hulking dreadnoughts to disturbing mentalists and many mantles in between. And so I think that the aim here obviously is to do sort of like the monster-facing forward setting, right? So you just play whatever kind of monster you want, and that sort of seems to be the direct theme. Name your weapon and make it your scepter. Slay a beast and seize its crown. So it's a massive number of playable monsters characters, a dangerous setting encompassing 13 unique competing kingdoms, and the entire dynamic story path system. So we have played story path on the show before. Pesto and I played it, and Morgan was in that game too. We played Curseborn, which is story path. It's an interesting system. It is I don't want to say like a utility system like Cypher is, but it is essentially meant to be a system that can have other settings put on top of it. And I think that they've done a good job with the way StoryPath works, StoryPath Ultra especially, in giving players the ability to sort of have different abilities and trigger them when needed. And I think that there are echoes forward probably from previous systems, because Onyx Path was obviously very, for many years was the core developer of the Storyteller system after White Wolf gave up the quote unquote ghost, and so they led that forward. And so there's some, if you read StoryPath, there are some similarities as far as how things are broken out. And so if you're a person that's played sort of older games, older White Wolf games, you probably would have some at least base familiarity with attributes and skills and stuff like that. But we had fun with Curseborn. I thought it was a blast. I absolutely adored both Morgan and Pesto's character in that game because they were both totally different. And of course, shout out to Ramos, who's not here, but he was also a part of that game as well. But yeah, I encourage you to check out. I encourage you, if monster or monstrous stories are your thing, then check out Monster Kingdoms and subscribe to get that alert.
When you say that you can do like different settings, maybe I'm probably I probably misheard everything that you just said, and I apologize.
No, go for it.
You talked about like stack settings or something like that, or like you're able to do different settings. Like, I guess, could you get into that just a little bit more? Like when you say settings, like, are you talking about in terms of era? Are you talking about in terms of genre?
My guess, that's a great question. First of all, I think my guess as far as Monster Kingdoms goes is that you would be able to play sort of in any area. But most of the games that they have been producing, at least that take place in I think it's the
Earthbane cycle.
Earthbane cycle have been present day games. I don't believe they've gone back in history with any Earthbane, notwithstanding, of course, the World Below, which uses the StoryPath Ultra system, and that is in sort of a totally different realm. I think the thing to point out here about both of these sort of new announcements we've had, both from Moncook Games and then from Onyx Path, is we're seeing some parallel lines here. So both games, both settings, or both systems, as it were, are putting forward what? They're putting forward fantasy-based options for people to come and play. So why would that be? I mean,
Tell us.
I think in my opinion, the reason why they're doing that is because there has been a clear break away from the elephant in gaming, which is Dungeons and Dragons, because of some choices that Hasbro has made about their line of products. And clearly when you look at sort of some of the writing on the wall with people leaving the creative side of what they've done to go do their own thing, big name creative people that are important to sort of, or have been important to the way 5th and previous editions were made, then yeah, I think it shows that other independent publishers, Critical Role's another example, right? So they made their own. And so kudos to them because it's a success. And they're showing people, hey, we don't need this thing. We can do our own thing. And I think that is a great way to look at stuff, because if the publishing company out there that is making the product that you grew up and loved is not doing right by the community, then you should not support them. You shouldn't. And I have the same issue with publishers that decide to dip their toe into generative art as well. I mean, that's pretty well known my opinion on that, but if I have to state it again, I can't support generative art in any form. I can't. Because it literally takes money and food out of people's mouths. And it also directly damages the planet because of the power usage that it has. It just does. So I think it's great that we're seeing other options come out and say, hey, listen, you don't just have to play D&D just because everybody else does. Here are other options. Now, I mean, Monster Kingdom is very focused on monsters, right? But doesn't mean it's not an option. And who's to say that you couldn't have a fun game playing a bunch of bugbears or orcs? You could.
One of the things I think is really interesting with Monster Kingdoms and the Earthbane cycle in general, which, just touching on it for the people less familiar, the first one, as you mentioned, the world below, is Underground Fantasy Kingdoms at the Gates. The second one is JRPG worlds, so very Final Fantasy-esque as far as the world goes, for those of you who just need a mental touchstone. And now we have this one, but the art that Onyx Path has shared as part of their Monday meeting notes and everything that you were talking about, the art shows modern era art for some of these as well, modern era art for Curseborn amongst others. And it's really cool that they're going, no, but look at the options, look at the possibilities. Yes, we're talking about hierarchies of noble houses and all these kingdoms and everything, but that doesn't have to be high fantasy. That doesn't have to be medieval feeling. It can be all sorts of things. You can be, I think the Curseborn art at the top was a somewhat teenage looking girl in her bedroom with music posters and her devil wings and red eyes and flaming halo over her head in her mirror.
Yes.
And it's just yeah, you don't have to yes, it's kingdoms and all these things that we used to talk about, medieval era things, but when you really look at it, it could be kind of any era you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't use words like kingdoms or fiefdoms anymore in the modern era, but we kind of still have them. But I also really think that some of the entities you can play in it, or that it talks about, the Kingdom of Shards that they sort of tease about, being full of the Forlorn, which are semi-angelic humans, lit from otherworldly sparks. That sounds neat as what? That sounds so cool, and I almost compared them to angel races in other games, but I'm not going to do that. But they're very cool sounding, and I'm not usually an angel playing kind of person. I'm more of a shapeshifter or curseborn kind of a person. or if the vampires, there are vampires playable in this game, I love a vampire moment.
We do. Yes, we've had some on this show. Not on this show, but on this stream, we've had vampire moments.
But I do like that it's everything from dwarves and elves to angels and ghosts and demons and cursed entities forced to roam the earth, and like that's cool. There's a cool dichotomy there.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. I like the elementors that they were talking about in the. I have notes on this, I swear. What we were just talking about.
Monster Kingdoms?
Yeah? Question mark? Hold
yeah,
up.
Elementors were in there.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That sounds freaking awesome too. Especially since it lists like different characteristics towards each one. Like if you're stone, you're gonna be more stubborn than other people. If you're wind, you're gonna be like, yeah. I really like that species, that character idea.
That sort of reminds me a little bit of RuneQuest, in the sense that when a RuneQuest character's runes get really high, they sort of take on different aspects of the runes that they're inhabiting, right? So you can have a warrior who loves Orlanth, the god of the Lord of the Middle Air, and their air rune can be really high, and they're naturally going to become a little bit more, just not whimsical, but they're going to be given over to things that would be represented by the wind, right? They're going to feel like they need to move, they need to be going somewhere, or they might inhabit like, their footsteps might feel like thunder, stuff like that. There's all sorts of great things where you can do as a storyteller with games that have those types of aspects, right? So I love that stuff as a storyteller because it means I can pick out little things about the characters and use them as descriptors for what people experience when those characters are around. Or like with Mav's character Faisal, because they have a super high truth rune, if something doesn't feel right or it feels like somebody's being a little less than truthful, they get all sorts of itchy, because they just know that somebody's not telling the truth, and that's not okay with them. And in RuneQuest, when your rune percentages get really high, it can sort of take over what you do. You get sort of inhabited by it, which is neat. It's a neat thing. It's cool because it's a thing that your character and you can, as a character, can play around with and do something with. That doesn't necessarily have to be tied to, oh, I've spent this experience and so now I can do X. Or I've made this level and so now I get X. It's something more at the table. It doesn't have to be attributed to some sort of advancement. And I dig that. So definitely interested to see how Monster Kingdoms does. And I wouldn't say no to playing it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Give it a test drive.
Heck yeah. I have a very random question based off of all these, oh, sorry, go on.
No, do it.
Okay, far out, I'm gonna. Since we've been talking about different characters from both storyteller standpoint and a player standpoint, is there a species that you have yet to see in a game that you've wanted to play?
Oh man. So I will say that I've never played a Minotaur. I've never played one. And the problem was when Minotaurs were around, when I played D&D as a youngster, Minotaurs in D&D stat wise are so just OP. They're so powerful that most DMs are never going to let you play something that gets +6 or +8 to their strength stat. They're just not going to let you do it. And of course, being Greek, the lineup with playing a Minotaur would be so cool. And so I think that I'm within my right as one of the setting creators to tell you that when we play a game, we live stream our game at GameholeCon, someone will be playing a Minotaur character.
Is that +8 or +6 to strength, immediately right off the bat, at level 1?
Yes, that's I'm going to roll 3d6 for my strength, and let's just say I get 12 or 13. Let's add +6 to it, or whatever the adjustment is for the modifier. And then that's the big problem that you would have as a GM is, how do I and this is sort of the old school mentality. How do I deal with a character like that? And the way you deal with it is let the character make the mistakes that they will make by having that kind of power. Oh, your Minotaur has a 22 strength? Okay. So when you accidentally, or you bump into somebody, or when you get into a fight in a bar, that 0th level human who has 2 hit points, they're dead as soon as you touch them. As soon as you hit them, they're gone. And now you're going to get arrested, or now you're going to get chased out of town because you're a monster. So there's a lot of things, I think, that thinking back in those days, running those games, that as a DM I wouldn't have thought of. And now with time and energy spent at how to develop characters and stories, most characters just they'll get in trouble for themselves. I don't have to do anything. I can look at a character sheet before we play and go, oh yeah, this person's fucked because they're going to do something stupid. And so I'm just going to wait for them to make a mistake. And they do, because they're human.
That's why I keep getting hired here. Okay.
That's right. You figured it out.
So the way that you said you've never played a Minotaur, my brain went to 2 distinct gamer places, which was one, thinking about an old campaign of a game where my friend played a miniature, like taking all the debuffs that make you as small as possible as a character, a miniature Minotaur named Uy le Bouffe, because that in French is where's the beef, and he'd always enter the room by going, here's the beef, and he was the
That is
best.
awesome.
But also thinking of all, like, my brain started rattling off all the games where you can play Minotaurs without homebrews or anything, like The Clay That Woke, or I'm trying so hard to not say the obvious answer of like mazes and Minotaurs, but like The Clay That Woke, or Shadow Dark RPG, or Dragonlance 2nd Edition, or there's like all of these where they're playable characters, and now I want to be like, if you really want to be a Minotaur, like, I got you. Like, do we need to make this happen in your life?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think that it's always a possibility. I think that it could be fun. It'll be fun to see it at Gamehole Con and see how we handle it when it comes to the new fantasy setting. I'm so excited for people to get a chance to check it out and see us play it, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, once it's all in sort of a concealed or a congealed format, we could actually split out. The plan will be to essentially give it to backers and let backers play with it and let them tell us what they like and what they don't like about it, and then probably make it as one of the first publications that Old Ways puts out, like as a product from the show, which would be fun. So
That'd be rad.
Yeah, we're doing all sorts of fun stuff. And so speaking about publications, there is one other item here on my list that I want to get to before we get to the next break, and I think that we should have enough time to get to it. And it sort of goes along the same lines of different ways to get your games on. And it is a magazine that I have tried very hard to diligently pick up each time it comes out, and that is Wyrd Science. And so I will put a link in chat for Wyrd Science there on issue 7. So Wyrd Science is neat because they don't prescribe to any one sort or type of game. They're a physical magazine. And I think the physical magazine part of it is really cool. And they do a lot of different types. They have basically themes in some of their issues. And issue 7 is coming out in print. And they're going to cover role-playing games and the Cold War. They're going to cover the Caves of Cud, which actually a friend of the show has helped develop. They do sort of like an amazing stuff through that. They're going to cover the Triangle Agency, Through the Hedgerow, and a bunch of other topics. So TVs, books, more. It is gaming. It's a magazine about tabletop games, but about like sort of spraying to all fields. They had issue 3 was about Call of Cthulhu, and it was about sort of darker games. And you can still get some of the older issues. They're only up to 7, so the issues that are hard to find are issues 1 and 2. And from what I understand, they are going to make a couple of copies of issue 2 available again, but it has been sold out for years, or since they've been doing it. So it's fun. And the reason why I wanted to talk about the show is because they are not a major publisher. They're just a small group of people, right? Between the articles and between the art and whatnot, that they get down and they do this in the gaming space. And it's really important, if you can support that you do. And if money is the thing that you can't spend on these things, totally understand. But when you find creators like that, go and share their product with other people. Like, I have people ask me, like, how can I help the show? And my first response is always share the show with somebody that you think might like it, or go to any stuff that we have, any page that we have where you can give us a review and review the show. Like, reviews are so powerful as an extension of, just being able to amplify messages. But as far as Wyrd Science goes, I heartily encourage you to check out the issues that they have. They're fun. I have physical issues here in my office, but maybe I'll get one at break and I'll show it on cam. I don't have it with me and whatnot, but yeah, super dig what they do. And I love the art, right? They do a lot of like old school art. And so if you're a person that likes sort of like old school gaming art, they're also good for it.
I think it was issue 4 where they talked to the writer of liminal RPGs, Lycan Supplement Werewolves of Britain, and I thought that was really cool. Like, they talked to so many writers and publishers and but I thought that one was a particularly fun one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I say that they cover everything, like they will cover the stuff like liminal, and then they'll also cover like Warhammer.
Yeah, I think the same issue covered Warhammer with somebody who worked on it.
Mm-hmm. Probably. They talked to Vintage RPG, so they talked to Stu Horvath, right? So if you don't know who Stu Horvath is, that's okay. Google him. He put out a book sort of about the history of gaming, and it wasn't like this all-encompassing, oh my God, here's every game that's ever been created. He created a book about the history of gaming from the games that he played. Like, here are the games that are in my game library. Here are the history of them. Here's where they came from. And it's a really cool book. And they talked to him about that book he wrote, Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground, which is really cool. I have it. I bought it. If you like I don't want to say a coffee table book, because I don't know how many people have coffee tables, but if you're the type of person that likes to have like a book around that is about gaming, but maybe you don't want to like snooze on some rule set or whatever it is, Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground are pretty cool. It talks about a lot of different gaming industry books when they were first coming out, and sort of the why and the where and how they came about. Good stuff.
People have coffee still. I don't know about coffee tables, but coffee for sure. So
It's true. People do.
just thought I'd throw that out there.
I'm a coffee lover. It is well known. It's well known.
Mm-hmm.
It's well known. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah. I'm going to save this last topic for a second, and then I think what I want to do, if you'll permit me, Bunny, as our guest, is
Okay.
to ask you to discuss a recent event you were at, which is Small Games Done Quick.
Summer Games Done Quick.
Summer Games, thank you. Summer Games Done Quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. So, Games Done Quick is the main organization, and they do semi-annual video game speedrun charity marathons in America, benefiting 2 different charities. And AGDQ, Awesome Games Done Quick, always happens, or at least mostly happens in Pittsburgh, and Summer Games Done Quick in July usually happens in Minnesota. It hasn't always happened there, but that's where they've sort of settled to. And so the one that I went to was benefiting Doctors Without Borders, raised well over $1 million for Doctors Without Borders again this year. with a bunch of nerds just getting together, playing role-playing games, or not role-playing games. Oh my gosh, I need to stop looking at things while talking. Playing video games as quickly as they can, and challenging each other and themselves to do all sorts of fun, weird challenges for money. So, for example, an amazing Resident Evil 7 speedrunner that I look up to a lot, Captain Ezekiel, right? He runs the same category of Resident Evil 7 as I do. Easy mode, new game plus, any percent. But people donated $6,000 to Doctors Without Borders to see him do it in Madhouse mode instead, where there's half as many resources and twice as many monsters, including the bosses, and do little challenges where they have to change their routes to show special things. But basically, it's one giant main stage that's broadcasted internationally, where they're constantly trading off speedrunners and commentators, and hosts reading out donations in between juicy narrative of what's happening in the games. Well, outside of that room, there's small artists being supported, and a giant arcade room where everything is free to play. All their coin slots are disabled, and practice rooms for people who are just interested in trying speedrunning. There was a concert with a video game music artist called the Megas playing that was also streamed internationally and in like every room of the hotel. So if you couldn't fit into the concert room, people were just celebrating in like mini concert modes with their own little dance pits throughout the hotel. And it was just like a really awesome, bizarre event that showcases both high-level gameplay and really silly, wacky games that shouldn't even exist. They're really just the most bizarre, who made this and why kind of things. We usually call that like the silly block, or I think the WTF block has happened a couple times.
Can I get an example of like what one of those might be?
Oh gosh. So Awfully Silly Block, I love it when they just shorten it to Awful Block, has had games such as, let me think of a good one. I actually know people who speedran in the Awful Block. So there was, oh God, do you ever have a moment where you're put on the spot after having thought of the exact thing?
Sorry.
And then you're like,
yep.
where are my notes? Where are my notes?
Did that to myself earlier tonight. I get it.
But like, Secret Santa Xmas in July edition was speedran, or there was a number generation and generator game that was speedrun. There was like the special As Seen on TV game. But let me go to Awfully Silly. So for example, there were a couple Tiny Toons games that were played. If I ever submit a game to that, I would personally want to submit the Barney hide and seek game for the Sega Genesis, where the game beats itself as long as you don't touch it. So speedrunning it includes showing both of your hands and the controller not being touched at all times. Well, the game beats itself, but the game doesn't always beat itself in the same way. So there's a 3-minute variable in how quickly it'll beat itself. So it speedruns against itself if you just watch it closely. And it takes less than 10 minutes. So that's like a fun little like goofball thing to do. But yeah, there's everything from like really cool world records that were happening all the way down to like awful block nonsense. And yeah, I don't know. Do you have any specific questions? I'd love to answer. This is one of those,
amazing.
There's so much info on this thing.
Yeah, that sounds so vibrant and energetic. It sounds absolutely amazing. I'm curious about the juicy narrative that you talked about on the main stage. Is there a little like bit of that we can hear?
Okay, so you have to picture on the stage, it's this full stage setup with so many like TV cameras and lights everywhere, right? And there's a 20-foot projector above people so that the audience, about 700 people, 750 maybe, seated theater style, can watch every little detail what's happening, and the person speedrunning, and then there's a commentator couch behind them. So there's 4 people sitting behind them, all narrating what the person's doing, what techniques they're doing, what's happening in the game, whatever jokes, singing to characters' butts, like whatever the thing is that's going on. And then, so you have the 4 commentators on the couch, the speedrunner, and the host reading donations playing off of each other's personalities. And so it could be anything from, you know, again, talking about the nitty gritty of, okay, so Zeke went up to the 3rd stair from the top and looked at the crack in the banister so that when Jack picks him up from behind and spins him, he's running backwards into the wall and gets thrown outside of the bounds of the map so that he can walk along the banister outside of the map on the back porch of the house that you never actually go to. So there was no reason for them to ever make the models for it. And then he goes diagonally through the void from the edge of the back porch to you, where you get to the underground staircase that leads you to the basement about 40 minutes later in the game if you had played it normally, so that you can drop down. But you'll notice that he pauses here, because if he pauses here and waits to a count of 2, then the room will spawn around him, and he actually stopped himself right before when he would have fallen through the floor, so that he can then pick up the red key card off of the dissection table. It just, like, everybody's tracking everything while also making jokes and talking about, like, the smallest little details. And that's, like, my favorite out-of-bounds glitch in Resident Evil 7 that I use, so it's very easy for me to throw that kind of narrative into the world, because I love getting uppies from Jack and going outside the map.
That's amazing. Is it do you ever feel like the narrators behind you, like, is it hard to perform in front of them, or do you think any other gamers kind of feel a little bit difficulty performing in front of, like, all these eyeballs right over their shoulder, like they're being micromanaged or something?
I think some people do. I haven't had the pleasure of being one of the people on the main stage. I want to so bad. I have been in a speedrun showcase last year for charity, where I had a commentator and a host while I was speedrunning Resident Evil 7, and that was a very cool feeling. And there's something about, because you get to pick the commentators, they're hopefully people that you know will respect when you want to talk and know how you play the game and how you handle things and sort of vibe with you. And so then you have the comfort, instead of thinking about hundreds of thousands of people all watching you globally all at once and everybody waiting to see if you're going to choke or not, you have 4 hopefully friends or friendly people sitting with you on couches around you and not talking over you or micromanaging how you do things, but following your plays and following how you want to handle it and the narrative that you wanted them to tell. And so you are welcome to commentate your own gameplay as much as you want, but then when you really want to focus, when you really want to hanker in and be like, okay, his iframes drop in 3 seconds and then I have to shoot him as they drop, or oh, when Mia drops from this ladder, if you aim at the right paint spot on the floor and then run forward and crouch and heavy attack all at once, you can hit all of her hitboxes from the inside of her model. Those moments where you really have to focus, you can throw to, like, hey, Bobby, I need you to talk about why I'm doing this, while you're lining up your axe with the wall and then the TV, and then you're sidestepping 3 paces and waiting for 2 piano notes to happen so you can run through the next wall. Like, when you're doing those types of things, it's not that they're controlling how you do it, but they're all just there so you can focus on what you're doing. And I really like that. And I think some people feel the pressure, but I think that the commentators and everything help take that pressure off of you. I think if you were alone on that stage, if you were the only one talking while trying to focus on all of those little details, that would be way more stressful. I think that'd be way harder to really contain yourself for, especially if the run goes wrong. I got to see 5 people I respect a lot get world records on the stage this year, but there were also some people who the run got botched a few times in a row, and then there was this moment of, like, do we mercy kill them and move on from their spot, right? Like, do we go, maybe this isn't going to happen this year because even if you succeeded on the next try, you'd be like a half an hour overtime for your slot now. So maybe we pull the plug on that. And those are always rough. But even then, the community is so weirdly supportive, like genuinely so supportive, that while there might be somebody online who comments on the YouTube video like, well, of course that guy choked playing Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle 3, obviously he choked fighting this guy. Like, yeah, there's going to be that person online. But in person at the event, everybody is so ready to be everybody else's cheerleaders. Nice. And that energy is infectious. So even the people who are like, oh man, I went 10 minutes over my projected time, we were all just like, but you still were up there and you did it, and you raised how much money by doing that, and that was so cool. And just people gathering in hallways to be like, you were amazing, here's a bottle of water, you must be like thirsty after all of the commentating. Like, everybody's just supporting each other so much. So I think it sounds way more nerve-wracking than it actually is in the moment.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. Is there like an underground secret society for speedrunners where you guys are like exchanging secrets of the games to help your runs?
Most games have their own communities. So I actually, when I first got into speedrunning a few years ago, it was almost 3 years ago now when I tried running Resident Evil 7 for the first time. And my friend Erica, who is now about to be approved for 19th in the world, I think, for Resident Evil in the category I run. She was 24th at the time. And she was like, hey, there's a Discord for Resident Evil 7 runners. Everybody, world record holders, newbies, the people making the split tools for you so you don't have to worry about it, all of them are in there. If you have any questions, let us know. We have guides. We'll all be ready to help you. We can take screenshots of which pixels you should be aiming at. Like, we've got your back. And I joined there, and my first speedrun attempt I ever tried on stream, the world record holder came in and was like, baby speedrunner, let's go. If you need to ask any questions while you're running, I'm here. But otherwise, I'm just going to be in chat telling you everything you're doing right, everything that is the right path. Every time you get a good split, especially for a beginner, but just in general, a good split, I'm going to be here for you. But if you have a question, like, don't be afraid to ask, because we'll type it in chat as succinctly as possible because you're speedrunning and talking at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's less all speedrunners globally have a secret underground together, and more most games have a little underground pocket together. Resident Evil speedrunners have little pockets of community. Clock Tower speedrunners have a Discord and community internationally. Like, there's little sects of us hiding around underground going, oh my god, wait, hold on, Demented Salad just figured out a new out of bounds path. He's not even a speedrunner, but he just wanted to prove it could be improved on. What? And like, we all are just hanging out, friends together.
Yeah, I love that you build off of each other. In my mind, like, I thought it was way more competitive, like trying to get those top spots, but instead it's like this community that is like building on top of each other and helping each other out and giving, like, that's like a community. That's really freaking cool. Like, it's a friendly, competitive community.
I can't speak for all games, of course. That's too many, like, hundreds of thousands of people involved that are world record holders across the leaderboards, but most of the world record holders I've ever known for any game welcome people competing for them. Because at first, most speedrunners have the mentality of, I'm just trying to do better than myself, right? I'm just trying to see if I can beat my own times, and that will propel me up the leaderboard anyway, but I want to see how good I can be, how good I can do. And then, yeah, when you're in those top spots, there's like I really have a shot of that world record. I'm going to grind practicing this until I get that last like half a second shaved off and I can beat Zeke or whatever. And that energy exists too. But then that gives the people who are current world record holders a reason to keep practicing, a reason to keep playing, a reason to keep trying to improve themselves also. And so, yeah, the friendly competition is still very much there because it gives them a reason to stay on the game instead of just being like, well, I got the world record, nobody's ever gonna nobody's ever gonna beat me, so I
Right.
guess I can just never play it again. um, so yeah, everybody's usually really welcoming.
That's awesome. I think that that is sort of the best way, especially in something that could be very competitive and could be very, well, less than friendly because of there. It's not like the video game industry isn't full of competitive gaming that isn't friendly. I mean, that's an entire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of I would say the mainstay likely of competitive gaming is we're not going to be friendly. Many of us grew up hearing things, whether it be on Xbox or whether it be in TeamSpeak when you're playing computers, there was, we'll say, less than friendly talk.
I learned how to curse because of COD.
Right. Well, sure. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's cool that and I had a opportunity while I was doing double duty to stop it and sort of view the external portion of the event this year covertly. And it looked like there were a bunch of people that were just genuinely having a really good time. And I think that's great. I think anytime community folks can get together and have a really great time while focusing on building each other up and learning from each other, just like the idea of like the story of that person coming into your run and being like, hey, I'm just going to help you because I want you to be able to do this. That's such a cool way to experience that.
Many people very high up on that leaderboard have all come in and been like, we're not going to tell you how to. We're going to assume you know what you're practicing. But if you have any questions, we're here for that, or we're just going to hype you up. And I really like that a lot. Also, Games Done Quick did a huge announcement at the end of the event this year, at the end of the credits. They did their first ambassador program this year, which was also very cool. And we love to see more of that and more people getting to both be uplifted and uplift charity. But at the end of their credits, they also announced that they're going to do Games Done Queer as a new event for the first time over Halloween this year. And I'm really excited for that. But if you ever want to check out Games Done Quick online, they have a Twitch channel. And they also do hot fixes throughout the year, which are online events instead of big week-long conventions. But I'm literally talking like 7 days, literally open 24 hours. The arcade is open. The main stage is open. Everybody is hyping each other up, whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. We're playing games together. So it's really infectious either way.
Yeah, it looks really cool. The event looked really cool, and I got to hear some of your sort of more direct breakdown when you were streaming on your channel about the experiences, and I think we need more of that, not less of it. So thank you for the follow. There are anonymous follows here on our channel, so we're not here to call you out, but we do appreciate your follow. Okay, so we're going to go to break in just a couple minutes, but before we go to break, I want to ask our audience in chat, and also, of course, our the rest of my esteemed folks on stage here, to think about this before we get back from break. It's been a month since we did Seize the Game, and in a month, a lot of things can happen. I wonder if there is a game that you have played in the past month that you would like to share a fun story from. I have played a whole host of games, which some of them, of course, are recorded and they're not out yet, and so I can't necessarily dip into those stories, although I might. But I want us to think about like games we played in the past month or so, and then what fun things have you done in the tabletop space, right? So we'll go to break, and then we'll be back with that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about our what's going on with Green Ronin Publishing. And if you don't know about Green Ronin Publishing and you don't know what's going on with Diamond as far as the distribution stuff, we'll get into that and why it affects the games that you might see on store shelves. So we'll be back with Seize the Game shortly. Thanks. We're good. Welcome back. Seize the Game here on the Old Ways. We have returned from break when the overlay is not broken and everything is okay. And so that's good. So before we went to break, I talked about recent gaming. And so I'm going to ask Morgan if she would tell us about one of her recent games, because as I have noticed, she has been running games for our backers on Patreon every once in a while. So if you're a member of our Patreon, you can get into one of these fabulous games that Morgan will run for backers. Just, it's not recorded. It's just come in, have fun, and have play. And so maybe that's a memory, or if there's a recorded memory you want to talk about in the past month since the last season of the game, take it away. Show is yours, Morgan.
So I have two. One from when I ran, and one from what I recorded, or something that happened during game, or something that was mentioned during game. I'm not going to get into logistics because it doesn't matter. So running one. So I'm still into the whole GMing thing, and really my favorite part of the whole GMing thing is that I can just do what I want. It's my game. It's my world. And so that's my favorite line when I know I'm fucking up a part of the story is to say, yep, this is my world. So for those of you who have run with me and have heard me say that, yeah, I totally just jacked something out of the story, and that's okay. But I did a fantasy one on Sunday night, which Mike unfortunately wasn't able to make. Sad. You were mentioned. Killed your character. We were like, oh, it would have been great to have a wizard. So when I was thinking the name of the one shot was Club Cairn, and it is. It's what it's called. But it's not it really wasn't supposed to be dance club and mystical tomes on one level and something. No, it was supposed to be like gentlemen's, wizard, high society type club. Yeah, no, I totally misread that whole fucking thing, and I'm and there's a dance club right here, and there's some bard playing dance music, and whatever. I'd throw in some songs from the 90s or the 80s or whatever, and yeah. So that was one of my favorite, and they just rolled with it, even if they might have known that it might have been. This is supposed to be a fantasy game, and we're sitting here. It's they're playing Blue Dabbadia and their little lute and all this other stuff. So yeah, that was a good one, and Skip was in that one. He's still in chat.
Yes.
But yeah, and so then from the only thing I'm gonna mention from a game that I played in the last month is the word centaurs.
That's a fitting name, a fitting thing for you to mention. Yes. Somehow it always circles back.
The horses.
It's fine.
It's fine.
You do.
Yes. When you were, I have to be honest. When you were talking about characters you haven't played and you mentioned minotaurs, I'm like, is that the name of that character? Is that the name of the thing? I had to go look up what half man, half horse was.
Centaur. Yeah, a bit different.
They are. And then I thought of that one movie. Was it with Stifler? And he they had the Minotaur, and it was him and Paul Rudd, and they had the Minotaur drinks. Okay. If you've never seen that movie, you should see that movie.
It's tough because Paul Rudd has been alive for 100 years, so you
he's
don't
the Dick Clark of our generation.
He is. Well, he's a ghoul. Clearly, if you want a great example of a ghoul, then it's Paul Rudd, because he hasn't changed since he's barely changed since the 90s.
Yeah.
He just looks the same person. Yeah, no, good for him. I mean, if you've got the genes,
do it.
Use it. Why not?
I don't have that. Okay, I'm done. That's it.
Okay, so
wait, you just said one word of centaurs and then you moved on?
That's all. It's fine.
I want to
I'll
know more.
some other time.
Yeah, Morgan, give us more.
Girl.
There's a whole lot of talk of foaling.
Folding?
No,
laundry?
No, foaling.
Foaling.
As in
foliage?
No, like baby.
I'm going to just keep saying F words until I hit the nail.
It's okay, we're a mature show. Go ahead.
Foals are baby horses.
Fondlings?
No.
Are those little baby geese?
Are those ducklings? No.
I thought those were baby
Are those
ducks.
goslings?
Goslings, yes, that's got to be it. Sorry, I had geese on the head because
We would.
I just remembered the Sweet Dreams Are Made of Geese and how I really want to play that with
No.
Morgan.
Yes. Sweet dreams are big. So Staffin and Chet, no,
Always
we
talk
did
about
talk
ducks.
about RuneQuest runes earlier, though. You did miss that, maybe. Okay, so you've played some games. You had a fun fantasy game on the server that you got to play. That's cool. And then you mentioned Centaurs, which is
That's it.
part of a recorded thing, which we'll have to talk about after the recording comes out.
Oh, okay. I got wink. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so in the past month, Pasto, what games or things have you played that would come to mind that could be interesting for our audience?
Oh no. Okay, so in terms of games that I have been playing, there's only one roll table. There's only one of those things, right? RPG games I
Yes.
kind of started playing.
Yes.
Okay, you haven't even started playing, so I'm supposed to DM this actually, and
Ooh.
it's the Kids on Brooms one
Yeah.
that I'm adapting this system into like a Sailor Moon system. So like people's brooms are going to be like their transportation pens, and then they get to choose like what classes, and that their classes are going to be like their type of magic. And like the group has been amazing so far in creating their characters. I'm blown away. Like we've got a Milky Way, which is going to have power of like candy bars. And I freaking love it so much so far. But we haven't started playing because I've been a very, very lazy person. And so my players have the concept of the characters, but I have not given them any updates on any of the system that I have in my head. It's up here. So I might have to pull a Morgan and be like, this, yeah, that happens in this world. Totally. You know, like, yes, and everything. But that's what's coming up. But definitely a new game that I've been playing is Magic the Gathering, actually.
Oh,
I am
really?
terrible at it, but my gosh, it is so much fun. And I love to like just watch people play it and like the different gears and all of people, like everybody's head. Like we played with Bunny, the VTuber,
Yes.
um, Bunny Hearted, and Lecco and Ramos.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, the gameplay between everybody's brains. They're so big brained. And I love being small brained in that big community. It's so wonderful to be like, hey guys, how should I attack you? But the thing that's wonderfully noticeable about Magic the Gathering, it's not as intimidating as I originally thought because there are so many sort of mechanics that can cross over from like stuff like D&D. I'm like, oh, okay, so I completely understand. Like when I'm summoning a creature, I use mana for that. So and so it translates pretty well. I don't think that's like anything new for like your audience members, I assume. But if anybody's intimidated by Magic Gathering, it can feel like a huge, huge world. And luckily, there's tools online that you can play, so you don't have to buy decks. You know, you can just build a deck online. But just throwing that out there as well. That's the other thing that is new in my world.
Yes. As Hapless Mage says in chat, crack the cardboard crack. We used to call it crack the addiction. It was sort of like the way it came out. People would spend so much money on cards, an obscene amount of cards, and then eventually people got into printing cards.
Yes.
Um,
Just to be able to like save a little bit of money, but instead of having to chase after that chase card per deck.
Right, exactly. And I support that. I don't think there's any issue with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't. I could not. I've played it several times. I used to have 4 or 5 decks. I just could not for the life of me get into it. I don't think it's for me. And I think that unfortunately I played with some people who were very competitive and early on who play with really super competitive people. And you're like, you don't have the ability to actually get out and understand how things work because, well, you're already dead. It wasn't fun for me. And I was like, okay, so I'm not on your level yet. And so I had to find people that like I could just play for fun with. And eventually I played with those, but it never got to the point where I was like, hey, I want to invest more time and more money in this. Because I watched people spend thousands of dollars on Magic the Gathering cards. And I was like, I just can't do that. I don't have the money. And B, I I don't want to do that. It's not. No, it wasn't enough of a get for me. Now maybe with like electronic decks, it might be funner. I'm sure that I know the people you're talking about playing with because I've played with them before. I can only imagine they're a blast to play with.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I don't think I could do it.
You don't think you
Uh,
do?
Back, you mentioned like the cardboard crack thing or calling it crack, and chat did too. Back when I worked at tabletop game stores and like TCG stores and everything, one of the things sometimes people would be panicking because they realized how much they had just spent on their decks for the tournament, and then they're like, "How will I explain this to my mom or wife or whoever? Like, how am I going to explain this?" And I was always just like, "Listen, just tell them that." Just tell them a simple, "You're welcome. I can no longer afford to experiment with hard drugs. I will never be able to afford drugs because I am spending all my money here. I'm never going to get into trouble financially on anything really other than this because I can't afford to dabble in anything other than this. So, you're welcome for me not forming any worse habits than Magic the Gathering." And luckily they usually got at least enough of a chuckle, but I had one girlfriend once come in going, "My boyfriend told me, you're welcome, I can't afford drugs anymore," and said that you're to blame for that verbiage. It's like, am I wrong? And she's like, "No, he's much soberer now that he's playing this game." I'm like, there you go. There you go. It's bringing families back together. Perfect.
Aw,
Well,
you
and
became Dare.
yeah, probably way more
Yeah.
successful too than Dare was. But
Yeah.
People will give away free Magic the Gathering cards to people they think they can rope into it. People don't give out free drugs as much as Dare said that they would.
yeah, that's true. That's the thing that I was missing from Dare was, like they always. So for those of you who are maybe outside of the U.S. who are watching this and where Halloween isn't the same thing, in the U.S. for decades, what they told parents was, someone is going to go out there and they're going to try to hand your kids drugs. I am telling you, it has never ever happened. It hasn't happened to me. Hasn't happened to anybody I know. That's like, "Oh, here, kid, here's some free drugs." No, not in any way, shape, or form. That does not happen. But it should. No, I'm kidding. But I think that Magic and games like it, or very like high intensity, high cost games that you can get into, like Warhammer or like any really miniature play, could be a great way to keep people off of drugs, because you will have no disposable income when you are in those games for sure, because it's just going to take all your money for sure. Okay, so I gotta ask, Bunny, what games you played and what have you been up to in the past month? Secretly, I know many things that you've been up to.
Yeah, as I wore internally on how to answer this question, I've been reading more role-playing games that I might subject others to in the future. I've been getting into a new mage game my spouse is running, and that's been really helpful on like creative juices flowing. I'm a librarian that specializes in like repairing tomes with a rote that repairs them on both a time and matter and entropy set of effects, and it's been fun. More archaeologist than librarian sometimes, but that's a cool concept I've gotten to like let my creative juices out with. And then I mean, obviously Mike and others here know that I've been doing silver screens ran by the wonderful and delightful Mav. Maverick's great, and I love gaming with them. And my character, Yvonne Alethea Joy, has been a real pleasure to play with. I'm trying so hard to not say anything incriminating. Just listen, when you're in the 1930s in a Cthulhu game and you are making a movie to rival like Universal monsters that have been coming out for the last 14 years or whatever. You're tempting the fates. And she's also a closeted queer person in 1936. So there's lots of really fun stuff we get to do there. But I will say, like, I think the only thing I can say is everybody involved in that project did so much research leading up to it on like Hays Code and what that era was like, so that we could represent all of our characters really delightfully. So I've loved both the elements I can't wait for people to get to hear in Silver Screams, but also I've really enjoyed sneaking off to the Sunset Strip, the classically gayest part of Hollywood even back then. And it's been a really fun way to approach history. Otherwise, I've mostly just been making characters, researching games, stuff like that seems safe to say on the internet right now. So
Yeah.
I don't a lot of research, a lot of character creation for characters I'm not going to get attached to, just
As you do.
shenanigans. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mike,
Yeah.
did I satisfy your question?
You did.
Do I need to say more somehow?
No, I put you in a box and you did your best to stay constrained in that box. So, as the audience might not necessarily be aware, or some of them not aware, there are things obviously for the show that are in pre-production or in production that have not been announced yet. And so we certainly don't want to talk about them ahead of their full and, passionate announcements. But I can talk about some things that I have done in the past month, which are hopefully going to be fun. Yes, centaurs. So yeah, we on that point, on Pesto's point in chat as far as centaurs, we have been playing more RuneQuest. If you've been hopefully at least seeing or listening to our Adventures in Dragon Pass series, we are having a lot of fun making Glorantha our own. We have, in many ways, I think, begun to carve out what that world, that RuneQuest world, means to us, and what is important, and maybe what needs to be highlighted more. I think the fluidity of the way myths are expressed in Glorantha gives me just so many options as a storyteller to do with the world what I want. And it's not just a top-down thing too. It is, I get the benefit of playing with players who are, in my ear saying, hey, I really want to do this. I think this would be cool. And there is nothing so far that has been proposed that I have not been able to say yes to in some way, shape, or form. And it's interesting too, because there's a lot of folks that have played RuneQuest for a long time. And they have a very specific view of how things are supposed to be done. And what's great is that the world and the setting was written originally by somebody who basically didn't want any of that. Like Greg Stafford writes and helps, really spearhead the big creation that is Glorantha and eventually RuneQuest. But even he was a proponent of making the world your own. Like, it's perfectly okay to have canon. But in the same breath, in what we do with RuneQuest, it's perfectly acceptable to say, that's not our RuneQuest, right? So that the very common adage is, your Glorantha may vary. But what we usually say, or what I like to say, is your Glorantha should vary. And the reason why I say that is because it is the pure expression of what a myth is. And so myths are stories that will vary from people to people as they pass them down. And so when we talk about the arc of storytelling in that, we have to acknowledge that the story has to change because other people are telling the story. It's like the old game of telephone. Around a campfire is, I'm going to say something to this person, and we're going to go all the way around the campfire. We're going to see what the last person says. Is it the same? Likely not. And that's important because myths are interpreted by people who experience them from very, very different perspectives. And so that's what's sort of been a lot of fun getting into Dragon Pass and making, sort of just making the world become what we want it to be. And so that's been a ton of fun over the past month. What else could I talk about that we have done?
Is that like a very sort of open world type of thing? Like you make what you want with it. Is that intimidating at all? Because we talked a little bit earlier about sort of these open world type of systems that can be a little bit overwhelming because it's too much, right? Like sometimes you might get choice paralysis from it. Do you find yourself ever in that pit when developing a new story or a new game using RuneQuest?
Yeah, I think that early on when I was playing when I was running the first season of the game, 6 seasons in Sartara, an amazing intro to RuneQuest written by Andrew Montgomery. I think that the world can be very intimidating, and the wiser people who had been around RuneQuest more counseled me and said, "Listen, the world is enormous. You cannot take in 40 years plus of written lore in the period of 4 months. It's not possible to ingest it. Don't try it. So understand the guideposts that you need to understand about the gods that are relevant to the people in this world, in this specific portion of the world, and then focus on that and focus on the characters." And so all I did was I closed the camera lens really tight. And I didn't worry about, oh, well, what's going on at this place, or what's happening here, or does this matter to this? No, all that matters is what's going on in the characters' lives. That's it. We want to tell a deeply personal story. And the first season I thought was really good. I really feel strongly about the first season of that show. I thought that all the characters grew and changed. It is a coming of age story in many ways, in a lot of ways. And it's a way that I think that the layout of that sort of scenario of how it was written is perfect for somebody who knows nothing about RuneQuest, knows nothing about Glorantha, because it lets you walk them through how they go from being a child to being an adult, and the choices that they make and how they affect the place that they live, and then what happens based on the choices that other people make and how that affects their lives too. And so there's a lot of really great sort of fundamental storytelling techniques that are wrapped up in it. And it doesn't mean that I didn't find Glorantha intimidating. I still do to some extent, because I know that I don't know everything that I think I should know to be somebody who's storytelling in that universe. But what I try to focus on is, what do I need to know for this moment of the story? How do I not get consumed by the tidal wave of lore? And the way I do it is I ignore it. And I tell myself that it doesn't matter, because it doesn't. What matters is the characters and what's happening in their lives right now. And as long as I keep that focus, I tend to be okay, I think. Yeah, so I'm staffing in chat, right? Having to keep track of what happens in far, I think that's Kralolia. I don't know how to pronounce that right. And so I murdered that word. Apologies. At the same time as running the intricacies of a lunar politics whilst having 3 other proto-Hiri stories in play. Yep, it's what makes him almost sorry. I've run clans for 40. Almost sorry. You have so many stories. And hopefully we'll get a chance to hear some of them at some point, because there are yarns that man can spin about stories in Glorantha. So I've been playing a fair amount of RuneQuest. We are happy to be having fun in that, and there may or may not have been centaurs in that game. So we'll see. Other than that, though, what could I talk about that isn't out yet, but I can talk about? So I mentioned this to a friend, a good friend, closely, but I am beginning the outline and preparation of a new Call of Cthulhu scenario. And so I'm going to write another Call of Cthulhu scenario, likely with a little assistance, but that is a fun treat for me, and hopefully a fun treat for the readers and listeners who maybe if you've had a chance to check out Time of the Serpent, you'll get a chance to see sort of what I do in a different era of Call of Cthulhu. So that is something that I'm working on.
Is that because you were inspired by something particular, or because you just had this need to want to play Call of Cthulhu?
Yeah, I think so. There's part of it, right? So there's the those of you who are on the Discord server and sort of know that Mav is our head of Mythos Horror now, and that is to say that I trust them implicitly with sort of running and heading up all of the major Mythos stories. And this is in no way, shape, or form any sort of disparity about that. That has nothing to do with it. I played Call of Cthulhu for a really long time, and I think that I've got a good handle on horror, and I really enjoy it. And so there are stories that I want to tell, and some of them can only be done in that sort of framework where humans are very, very fragile, and the reality is that the universe doesn't care about them, that they are ants, and the sort of the nature of cosmic horror and what Lovecraft did with it and how he bent it into shape and form for us to enjoy later on has been an inspiration for a while. And I like the idea of maybe looking outside the United States for the scenario and placing it somewhere else. It already has a name, and it already has a reasonably good outline, and so now it's about doing the blocking and tackling of writing it, and then eventually playtesting it and getting it out. So yeah, super excited to talk about it, and it'll be good. It'll be good. I feel pretty good about it, but that always comes from the writer portion. The edits haven't started yet, so don't look in on me when I'm getting it edited and I'm crying and thinking about how terrible it is, because that will happen too. That's all part of the creative process. Yeah.
Such a beautiful process.
It is though, but creation is supposed to be. It's supposed to be that way. It should be painful and wondrous and in some ways violent. And there's a wonderful Jeff Goldblum quote that I won't insert here from Jurassic Park, but it is that. It very much is that dangerous, unexpected thing. And I think that is the passion that sort of keeps me going, is the creation of new things. So it was only a matter of time. I've had a scenario that I ran a couple of years ago at Chaosium Con for a few people, and it's set in the 1970s and it's anchored out in the Mediterranean, and it was a lot of fun. It's really short, and I might still develop that, but this other scenario has got good legs to it, and I feel really good about it. And I look forward to being able to talk more about it when it's a little bit more tangible.
I mean, on that note, I'm kind of curious if Morgan Fiery Ashes would be so inclined to. I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but and maybe we talked about this before already. Mike just mentioned passion and what drives him to continue to create these stories. Is there a drive that you two have to create these stories, and where that comes from? Is there a particular place that's coming from where you have something to say, or you want to discover something about yourself, or is there something about the world that you want to act out just to try and understand a little bit more? Is there a place where your passion and your drive for TTRPGs come from?
To maybe not. It keeps me from driving myself out into the middle of nowhere and living on a lake by myself with my dogs.
That's beautiful. I mean, I also like that ending though too. That sounds like a nice
I
retirement
know.
plan.
That is my retirement plan, and my husband too, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, goes without saying. But my dogs.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Why, yes, it does, because he can hear me talking right now.
Oh, yes, in that case, yes.
Yeah.
Husband unit that I know, obviously, you go without saying, included.
Of course. It's a litter.
um, as far as that question goes for me, to be the dramatic theater kid that I am about it,
Yes.
and also to comment sort of about something that Michael just said. There's this quote from a game that I really like that sort of touched my soul in a way that I didn't expect it to. Where a character, and I'm not going to give context, I think everybody should play this game if they are into any amount of video gaming at all. But there's this quote where a character says, I get it. This won't stop until I die. But when I die, I want it to hurt. When my friends leave, when I have to go, when this entire town is wiped off the map, I want it to hurt. Bad. I want to lose. I want to get beaten up. I want to hold on until I'm thrown off and everything ends. And you know what? Until that happens, I want to hope again. And I want that to hurt. Because that means that it meant something. It means that I am something, at least. Pretty amazing to be something, at least. And I love that quote. I love that quote so much. It is pretty amazing to be something, at least. And I don't mind when I lose or when I get beaten up or when I hold on desperately until I get thrown off again or whatever, because that sort of has been my life outside of games also. And I just think it's really cool to get to be with people and tell stories and do something and make, I don't know, even if it's not being shared as content, I love doing something together with people and telling these stories together with people. I tend to go towards narrative more than just like roll dice, tell me what happens stories. Those games have a place in the world, but I'm not the average player of them, I think. But I want to, sometimes I want to feel things I'm not feeling in my normal life, whether it's hope or whatever. And sometimes I want to evoke all of the emotions in my friends because I'm so often a storyteller rather than a player before I joined this group. Or sometimes I just want to be something at least because I think it's pretty amazing being something at least.
Damn. Both of those were absolutely moving and beautiful. I had this weird, like, that answer sort of reminded me of this weird epiphany that I had at the Ren Fair this weekend.
Ooh, do tell.
It's so weird to talk about this. I'll throw it out there. F it. The Ren Fair I went to was incredibly busy. It's incredibly popular. And I was sitting on a bench and there was surrounded by a crowd, kind of people watching it in a weird way. And for some reason, it finally hit me because, like, I have this weird and anxious part of me that's like, oh, I should probably get up and give my seat to somebody. Like, there's so many people around me that are like standing up, even though there might be a seat like right down the aisle that's completely empty. And then for some reason, in that moment, I'm like, no, I can sit here. It's okay to exist. It's okay to be here.
Yes.
Like, I can exist. I can take up space. That is okay. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own journey. And right now, my journey is sitting in the seat, and that is fine. So it's random, but in case anybody needs reminding, like, you deserve space. You deserve space here.
Very true.
Did you have an existential crisis while you were at Ren Fair?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, dude. I had a
I
tarot
love that
reading.
for you.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? That tarot reading was so on brand, man. She told
I
me
love
stuff that like my therapist, my physician, and like my friends told me. And then it was in the cards. I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to some of this. Okay. I wear everything on my sleeve. So I'm like, I'm sure half of this she was able to easily guess about just me. But it was a very fun weekend. But yeah, that particular moment, I'm like, okay, it's fine to exist. And I love existing and being around people and learning other people's stories and meeting people.
Esto, not only do you deserve to exist, but you seem like the type of person, or at least somebody out there in the world that might be hearing this, maybe other present company included, who knows, also deserves to hear that your own joy is something that you produce, and sometimes productivity is just producing your own joy, and that's okay, even if it's not for anybody else's consumption.
Totally talking to you about that, Michael.
Yeah.
What? No, God, no, never. I would never do that, my friend.
like,
no.
Targeted.
I don't produce. I don't
Targeted.
create anything. I'm just here to make shit up and use my feelings.
That's creation.
Out there.
Yeah.
I don't have time for feelings.
I'm really good at
Feelings
making
in
shit.
baseball. I just imitate it.
Okay, so I want to get to sort of the last news item in our list of things that we were going to talk about. So I need to give a little bit of back history on this to make sure that you understand where it comes from if you're not familiar with what's going on. So there is there's a company called Diamond Comic Distributors. So if you don't know Diamond, as they're referred to in the industry, they're a really, really, really big comic distributor, and they distribute more than comics. They also distribute gaming books, right? And so very recently, they declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that Chapter 11 impacted a ton of different independent publishers, so over 100 of them, including Green Ronin Publishing. And it put Green Ronin in a really, really precarious position because basically what they're trying to do, what Diamond is trying to do is they are trying to sell off and liquidate the assets that they physically have from other publishers without paying the people who sent them those books to distribute. And the difficult part of that isn't just for Green Ronin, but it's also for publishers like Paizo. And they've had to call certain products back or keep things out of stores. So like Starfinder, the Player Core, the GM Core is not going to be at Amazon or at major bookstores. And the reason why I mention this is you have to understand, if you don't already, that the tabletop hobby that you engage with is a niche industry, really niche. And so margins are very, very thin. And so it's really important to understand that what Diamond is trying to do through this process is fundamentally bad for the entire industry. And so what I'll do in chat is sort of link this N-World article about Diamond and Green Ronin, and just for context, because I think context here is pretty important. But here's the thing, right? I don't play any of those games, but a lot of people I know do. And it's less about what I play and more about pointing out that Green Ronin basically has put up a crowdfunder for trying to help cover their legal fees, because they're going to go toe to toe with this, and they're going to try to fight this so that they can hold on to the hope of not having it, deeply financially impact them even more than it already has. So they're trying to find new ways, obviously, to get their books out, but that's not a fast process. So the everything when it comes to production of anything that's manufactured, all that stuff takes time before it ends up in your hands, and it takes business deals, and it takes understanding of how to source product and get product. There are so many different facets to this, and it's just really important that we understand that the people that we care about in the industry, because we want people to be able to create, it's less about if I play a certain game and more about seeing that there is something going on out here which is I think is frankly heinous, and it's purpose built to try to basically undercut and not pay the publishers for their own product. So it's pretty bad, right? So it's really the banks trying to get essentially every dollar they can out of Diamond, and they're taking hundreds of thousands of dollars of Green Ronin product, and they're trying to sell it in order to pay Diamond's debts, and it's something that they're fighting. So I'd love to get your thoughts on it, any of you.
So I guess the question is that so Green Ronin made like the RPG like The Expanse and Cthulhu Awakens and stuff. So I guess how does that affect the inventory they do have? Because I see on their store, on Green Ronin store, they're selling product. So do they have to give that money to the publisher then, or I guess?
I would imagine that Green Ronin's like sales on their website are probably through other like independent sources or from warehouse, right? But Diamond being such a massive distributor has all those ins at all those other places. Like for a business like Green Ronin or Paizo to lose their outlet to Amazon, say what you will about Amazon, and I could go on and on and on about that. They are the largest shopping center in the world. And when you lose that outlet, you lose the ability for, you know, Timmy or Susie or whoever who's 12 who wants to play Starfinder to go on their phone and just, or bug their parents, hey, order me this Starfinder book, and the parents go on their phone and they do it. You eliminate that sale. So if you iterate that out over every, you know, country in the world where that book could be sold and shipped to, that's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, there's also some interesting stuff about like the international branches of Diamond. Like Diamond UK was not included in the sale of the US, like North America branches of it being acquired by like Universal Distribution and Ad Populum, but only for like some subsects of their inventory. And like Penguin Random House got to end its sub-distributor agreement, but that also means that it ended its distribution with I don't know, like Marvel and Dark Horse Comics and IDW and Boom and like a bunch of other comic studios. And like Udon Entertainment like had to end its shipments, which then affects the warehouses that Diamond supplied for these people. And then like the whole Diamond comic suite pre-order system got shut down as of last month. So all of the comic and like pull box systems and everything for most main comic brands that they worked with, because I mean that was pretty much the entire North America comic market, all just sort of shut down pre-orders last month and had to scramble. But yeah, so when it comes to questions like Morgan's of how does that impact people, I'm sure the ones that were either still with the publishers or were in other shops' warehouses already, you know, their own thing. But everything that the distributor still had, all of their existing inventory across all types and brands was not included in the sale to anybody who piecemealed them apart. Which is like 130 companies. And some of them are not small indie companies. Like, they shouldn't be doing it to indie companies either, obviously. But there's like 130 companies that they did this to. So it's not like they just thought they could pull a fast one on some indie group or something, you know? And it's kind of baffling how they thought they could just get away with this and people wouldn't sue them. The over $1 million owed to specific groups alone would just not catch up to them at all. Like, it's such a wild assumption.
You know what though? Like, what I have found, it seems like that's true in the industry, which is, it is easier for people to say, "Oops, I'm sorry," rather than to ask for permission or do things the right way. They're just going to try, and if no one catches them on that, well, what's done is done, and it's going to take the industry standing up to banks especially in this case, Marvel is one thing, right? So in general, my general view on Marvel would be don't mess with the mouse because the mouse has a whole lot of power when it wants to use it. But compared to big banks, Green Ronin is small. I mean,
Yeah.
some of these banks are billion-dollar banks, and Green Ronin's not a billion-dollar company. They're probably not even a multi-million-dollar company in the sense of, because again, in the TTRPG space, margins are very small. Companies now are, other than say like, you know, probably Paizo and Wizards or Hasbro as far as the gaming industry goes, like the margins are small, the crews are small. And so to have them take hundreds of thousands of dollars of product that was waiting to be distributed or for sale and just say, nope, we're taking all the revenue for that. Like they feel blindsided, rightly so.
Yeah.
So, and I think that a lot of folks that have talked about the stuff that has gone down with Diamond when people got worried that they were going to have to file bankruptcy, people got real concerned about what was going to happen with their product. So
Sometimes it's wild to me that Diamond comic distributors survived so long. Like, I mean, I remember charges against them surfacing in like even as far back as the 80s for them bullying other publishers out of business and stuff. Like they were a problem before, and they've been like highly criticized for like 42 years now since their like origin. They basically entered the world being criticized. They haven't changed. Like in the I mean, I will say on their what little could be on their behalf. They in the early 90s they helped DC Comics and others in the industry make the advocacy group the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so funny now they're the thing they need comic book legal defense from. It's so good.
yeah.
In like the worst, like we're in the worst timeline kind of way. It's so funny that these people who helped set up comic book legal defense funds for comic book First Amendment advocacy groups are now like the big bully that has their hands in every single pie. And then decided when they had to leave because they're bankrupt and they screwed up, they're just taking all the pies with them, with all their handholds in it. They're just taking all the pies and going home, and that nobody would say anything.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like with the gall of thinking that someone wasn't going to stand up and go, no, you don't get to sell my stuff and not pay me for it, right?
Yeah, it's been pretty wild to watch over the last few months. I mean, as you said, like they filed for bankruptcy middle of January. So we've been watching this for like 6 months devolve as like, well, if Universal and Ad Populum can get together and be approved for acquiring just Alliance Games distribution, then Universal can have, Diamond Book distributors. And it's been so weird just watching people scavenge it's like, not to get too morbid, but like a whale bloom in the ocean when a whale dies and it's sinking to the bottom of the ocean, and all the different levels of the ocean scavenge different parts of the whale until the bones get to the bottom, and the deepest part of the sea scavenges the last of it until there's nothing left to show there ever was a whale, including bones. We're watching the whale bloom of the distributing industry right now as every single level of business picks apart little bits of
Yes. And then the bottom of the ocean where Cthulhu is, he consumes the rest of it.
Yeah.
He consumes the rest of it. Okay, so any other thoughts on the Diamond situation, Green Ronin, etc.?
I mean, I hope Green Ronin kicks their asses. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I do too.
This feels very the rebellion versus the empire, right? Like we gotta. I'm hoping everybody's rooting for the resistance and for Green Ronin and stuff, and helping them out along the way instead of just being like, good luck, and then staying out of it entirely.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Do you think this is like the first of many of these types of situations, not just in the TTRPG space, but in all the other different spaces of mediums?
I mean, just anecdotally, I would say that tariffs are bad. Like, tariffs are a tax, and they are a tax as a TAX, and they are also an attack on tons of businesses, because the thing to remember about them is that ultimately you, the consumer, will pay more. It's not a winning situation, right? From a financial aspect, it just isn't. It might have been when we were a country that did just gobs of manufacturing. That's different. But for the past 40 years, we have outsourced all that manufacturing. So like if you take, in the TTRPG space, if you take a company like Troll Lord Games, what they have been working towards very, very diligently is building their own US-based print house where they can print all of their games. And likely they will allow and get other people to print at their place in Arkansas after it's built. And they're doing it because of so many different situations of having to farm print jobs out to other countries, which is what, and I'll tell you this, which is what most of the books you have that are printed in your space, the books that are here surrounding me in my office, 90% of these are printed somewhere else. They're not printed in the US. And I don't have a problem with that fundamentally, if that's the easiest place to get books made at. But I think that it is telling that it is harder now to get books printed here from a financial aspect here in the States. And what's been done is that process has now been made harder. Like we saw a friend of the show, Stellar 54, or Beverly and Stitches. She produces dice bags and other material, or other type of cloth material, and her shop is in the UK. And they had to this week pause orders to the US because a $50 order US suddenly became $132. And that is going to be tough. These types of things are going to continue to happen if the same policies are in place. And that is something that is a larger conversation, probably not meant for this show. But it is something that we all need to be aware of. And maybe that means we buy less physical books. Maybe that means we spend that money getting PDFs. Could be that. Or maybe we funnel those potential funds into people who are willing to act as agents of change. I'll just put it like that.
I think I obviously agree with everything you just said, Michael, but also I think to add to answering Pesto's question would be, I think we will see more of this in the sense that, like, there are several main game distributors. This was also kind of touched on in chat. There are several main game distributors for game stores in North America, but most of those are owned by the same people. And most of those are either out of country or like Diamond, right? They own a bunch of them. So, like, for example, you could look at a game and see that it's owned by, it's made by Asmodee North America, right? But that is exclusively through Alliance Game Distribution, which was a Diamond property, like we were just talking about. So while those read as different distributors and they do their own distribution work also, they all kind of loop back into one thing. So when you come down to like, oh, there's like 10 options, but they're actually owned by like 3 or 4 companies, and those are out of the country, and then a bunch of their revenue is being sort of removed from them by not being able to sell to game stores. I know a bunch of people who manage game stores in my area who are worried because they can't get board games in stock. They can't get tabletop role-playing games in stock. They can't get cards in stock for various games because the distributors are struggling to figure out how to get them to America. And so right now, even though those companies are doing fine, if they can't figure this out soon, I think we'll see more of those the parents' company either cutting the strings entirely or having to file for bankruptcy, and then we'll notice all the smaller subsidies and the subsidies of subsidies all sort of disappearing all at once as the ground kind of falls out from under the industry, because it's just one giant cup game and we don't notice that it's all owned by like the same 5 people, right? It's sort of like looking at a map of what's owned by the Coca-Cola company, and it's like, oh, it's like 80 businesses that we are like big name brands that all compete with each other, all just owned by the same people. Right. It's the same thing in the gaming world, unfortunately. And so you do find like, oh, well, I mean, Seven Wonders and Carcassonne and everything are Asmodee. Well, that's Alliance, which was Diamond until last month. So who knows what'll happen. And you just see more and more of that the closer you look at the gaming industry and as a whole. So yeah, I definitely think we'll see that like avalanching businesses. If one collapse, you'll see a wave collapse over and over until we figure this out.
Well, that's depressing.
I would say on a hopeful note, it does not have to be that way.
Oh, it doesn't. For sure it doesn't. I just think that as we see the big ones fall, we'll see other things like snowball after it. It doesn't have to be that way. For sure.
It does not have to be this way. And yeah, it's just sort of skipped to mention in chat, a lot of the Kickstarter board games are all Chinese. They're all made in China based on production. So I can assure you that as I know that the tariffs got on the stuff on China got pushed very recently off another 90 days, but it is true that it needs to be resolved in a better way, because we're all connected. Every one of us, no matter how distant we might be from one another, we are connected in some way. Like, that's the way the earth works. And because it's a global community, when one portion of that community decides to make a ruckus for the rest of us, everybody's affected. So, or almost everybody is affected. Let's put it like that. So that is going to pretty much wrap our show. But before we go, I want to give our guest, Bunny Fiery Ashes, a chance to talk about what she does and where you can find her. I will do the right thing and make sure that chat knows that she gets a shout out for her channel in chat. So please tell us about yourself and what you're up to and where we can find you.
Sure. So I know that I was the most fun, lighthearted person, especially recently. Not depressing at all. But you can find me on that channel that was just shouted out 4 or 5 days a week. I do first playthroughs of mostly horror or story-rich games, but a little bit of all sorts of stuff. I work with a bunch of indie, as we love supporting indie businesses, a bunch of indie, both developers and publishers, to do indie game showcases and demo showcases pretty frequently. I do art and crafting and cooking and IRL content, as came up earlier. I recently did a charity event where I will now have to make a bunch of regulars in my community into tabletop role-playing game character sheets of what I think that they would be like in different systems, which I think will be like a fun little thing to do together as a community, or at least showcase together as a community. But more than any one type of activity or gameplay style, or even just gameplay genre, the main pillars of my content are that it's about experiences and stories that we share together, whether they're fictional ones or our own. So we do a lot of uplifting each other and other marginalized communities. I'm one of the 4 founding members of a stream team called Neurodivergent Plus. We're all Neurodivergent plus so much more as people on that team. And so I'm always happy to talk about those experiences, or my experiences as a chronically ill woman with permanent disabilities, or witchy nonsense. I do tarot readings for people over there, and throw runes occasionally, but it's more about experiences and stories. And then the other main pillar of my content and my community and my channel is that it's not positive vibes only. I think positive vibes are unrealistic and unattainable for most people. But being supportive all the time is something that I can be and something I can shape my community into. I'll never say that it's a safe space because I can't determine what's safe for other people, but I can make it an intentional space where we take absolutely no nonsense that jeopardizes marginalized communities or voices. And so it's a very intentional space with very supportive vibes only energy that I bring to it. And if any of that sounds good to you, I hope I see you around in the future. I'm also in like 7 shows with the Old Ways. So if you want to hear me in our Old Gods game that we did before, or Mage as Dante's avatar, or in Silver Screams, which is airing currently, that I'm very excited about, as my super, super gay makeup artist in Hollywood in the 1930s. There's queer joy riddled throughout what's happening there. And also grappling with what it's like to just show enough of yourself to people that they don't think that you lie to them all the time to survive. But if any of that sounds good to you, I hope I see you around in the Old Ways Discord or in my own spaces. Michael, everybody, thank you for having me as a guest tonight.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. I also love seeing Morgan's smiling face at me ever since we were ghoulies together. It's hard to not... Well, I mean, did other stuff too, but it's hard to not be happy and comforted by being around one of my ghoulie girls. So,
Yeah, maybe we need to see more of the ghoulies in the future. Maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
So Pesto is next.
Oh, cool. Hello. Pesto at you. Anyway, thank you so much for being on the show, Bunny. Oh my gosh, this was such a joy. Hi everybody. I am Pesto Mystic, and I am just kind of here. I'm here over here on the Always Switch channel. Just randomly. I do random things at random times at random moments. So, but I do hope that I see you all next month in the next Seize the Game episode.
Awesome. And now Morgan can take us home.
I'm gonna sing it.
Do it.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I've been playing Morgan tonight and Seize the Game. Yeah. I am not beneficent. No, I am. But I'm not. Anyways, I play on the Old Ways podcast. We're not the Old Ways podcast, the Old Ways.
You
It's
do.
gonna take some,
Trust me.
massaging of my tendrils. Anyways, Bunny, always good to see you, because, I'm going to see you again real soon.
Real soon.
Real soon. No, it's always fun. Pesto, always fun to hang out with you. Per usual, Michael, you're okay too. Nah, I'll see you again real soon.
Yep.
And no, always a good time to hang out here. You can find me on the Discords, chatting away, just random, apparently nonsense on a Friday night here. And yeah, come talk to me, hang out with me.
Yes. Talk to Morgan
I'll
about
be nice to
movies
you.
and TV
And horses.
and dogs and all
Sometimes.
sorts of things. And I have been your somewhat affable host, Michael Diamond. Hopefully you know who I am. If not, you can find me on the Old Ways, as it is occasionally something that I appear on. I have a ton of fun things coming for you this fall. So I would just say, if you are the type of person that likes a spooky fall, then you are in luck, because in a few weeks we're going to announce something very special coming to you this fall. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go raid out to a friend of ours, and we are going to raid, because she is playing and she's wild, we're going to raid Emmy DeVirgin, who's playing Resident Evil Outbreak right now. Emmy's great. I will give you a fair warning. Emmy is boisterous and very, very loud. She's a self-professed loud person, so what you should do is maybe adjust your volume as necessary. But she's amazing, and we love her. So from the Old Ways, thank you so much for enjoying this episode of Seize the Game, and we will see you next time.